What's up, everyone? Welcome to the next lesson. Welcome to the next big chapter. We have a banger of a chapter, and I think it's a pretty epic image as well. We'll be covering the process of making it, but actually, this whole chapter is about something different. It's all about the so-called advanced style transfer, which means that we'll go from this to this and this. You know, that's coming up in the next lesson though. So today we will break down this beautiful sunset. Let's get at it. So this image, this whole thing was a great opportunity to have some fun and use AI for creating aerial images. Usually when we work on commercial projects, we can't change the position of a mountain. We cannot erase a nasty parking lot, but now, we are kings of the castle. We can do whatever we like. That means we can share with you how to make a beautiful aerial image, both technically and compositionally. Okay, so let's start from this point. And I know, it looks awful, but hey, you need to start somewhere. In case you're wondering, we did a photogrammetry of a Google Earth. Like literally, we went to Google at this location, made many images, and used Agisoft to create a 3D model. Basically, we found the location, grabbed a bunch of images and ran them from Agisoft to create a 3D model. And does it work? Sure. Is it fun? Not really. So yeah, there's a lot of back and forth to fix the textures. If you're interested, you can check Agisoft on their website. It's not something we are excited to break down, but anyway, that was the gist of it. We color graded it, and now we are ready to dive into Magnifique. That's where this breakdown truly begins. So after upscaling, we get some additional production value. The mountains are transformed into forest, and that's what we were hoping for. It doesn't look CG anymore, so step by step we'll move forward, literally baby stepping our way. A little bit of curve adjustment at first, then we fixed the lagoon. It looked extremely sad, and thankfully it's an easy fix. We can kind of paint it over, and that should be enough. Keep in mind that we'll go back and forth using Magnifique and Firefly, so there's a lot we can get away with. Then we manually sketch the beach coast and shallow water. These are very rough brush strokes. Obviously, we are not focusing on details at all, but soon we will enhance it and we will gain a much more nicer definition overall. Moving on, we use Firefly to create some background, and this line looks extremely artificial. So we could either crop the image from the top or add mountains, but I think having some extra breathing space and the sun visible makes any image much more engaging. So yeah, we'll use Firefly to make this empty, lifeless horizon a bit more fun. In the meanwhile, we enhance this beach. It might not be a huge difference, but immediately we get some refinement, and all of that brush work we did is becoming super duper sharp. Moving on, we add color to the foreground, make it green and make it look like a forest actually. Those color operations are very important in the context of AI. Even small variations in like green yellows or green blues strongly suggest the direction for creative upscalers. And after another Magnifique pass, the standard settings, Creativity 3 and HDRI -1, we get that fidelity and even more attractive mountains. We also get some unnecessary detail, but we'll fix that soon. Next, we do a set of minor fixes. For example, erase the buildings or clearings in the forest, anything that kind of doesn't fit the mood of a primal jungle or is simply visually distracting. That's some things that you usually don't think of, but small moves stack up and they make a powerful image. So yeah, again, we have that creative freedom, and often those little details will make this world much more believable. Now, that's a fun step. We will do something more advanced here. We improve the water. It's looking much more custom. It's definitely more consistent. And I'm gonna keep a secret of how we did it for now. But don't worry, we will break it down in the next lesson, so we hope we have your interest kind of gathered. Okay, anyway, moving on, there are small adjustments that we do while working on the image. We also moved to the background a little bit, and the horizon was actually too high. So yeah, you need to be careful while generating something with Firefly and keep the perspective intact. Whenever you are doing something, think anatomy, perspective, all that kind of things, because yeah, you can step on a landmine. So that's it, perfect, it's looking great so far. We are done more of the technical part, solving all the inconsistency in colors and detail. In the second stage, we will focus on this image more artistically. As I mentioned, in this image, there's like nothing holding us back. We have a lot of creative freedom, so if something benefits the composition, we'll go for it. There's one last adjustment to the water, and then we continue with the fun stuff. Okay, so we use Firefly, we introduce bigger changes to the terrain. For example, we continue the mountains so that they blend with the whole image a little bit more interesting. That small move already feels like we are getting closer to this place, not just floating above it. Now we are even more immersed in this image. We see the details up close, we get a better sense of light direction. I think that's a great benefit to this image. So we do more fixes, smaller things like this mountain near the lagoon. But in hindsight, that wasn't the best idea, and you'll see why in just a minute. And okay, this is kind of cool. I think this is a cool trick worth pointing out. We are focusing on the foreground again, but this time we're trying to give Firefly a bit more direction. We are thinking of some palm trees here, and at this point, without much hesitation, we just sketch them out, you know, very, very roughly with the simplest brush, picking the colors from the already existing palette. And after a few generations in Firefly, we transform it into something that actually looks like a hill with palm trees. Of course, it's not exactly the same as we have drawn it, but we are not aiming for one-to-one perfect match. You know, we are focused more on achieving a certain effect, and we found this pretty cool method, the guided selection. We improved the connection between the whole scene and the foreground even more. Not only can we see these beautiful colors, the translucency, but we understand the scale of the scene a little bit better now. The foreground is usually a place where you have like lots of creative freedom, you know, where you can show some details up close. And okay, guys, give that area some extra love, you know, especially in your commercial projects. You can even sprinkle a little bit of that Firefly to break that CG look, and your images will look much more powerful. We obviously run this area through Magnifique, and here we see this HDR effect in motion. It's getting a little bit sharp, but we can tone it down, put it inside a vignette, dial it down to our needs, and that's that. Next, we can decide maybe this mountain isn't the best idea, and we might move it to the left. Again, it's a very organic process, but we can go back a step and generate the mountain the same way. Now, this creates more interesting lines, and I think it's a better solution. And now we have the ability to do this quickly, to test it and see if it works. So yeah, moving on, another batch of minor fixes. We break up the line again with more islands in the sea. This line was horrible when we started, but we broke it down and it's almost there. Also, we paint the beach manually at this point. The process is incredibly organic, guys. We paint over, we generate, enhance, color grade. We react to what's happening to the image and decide where we want to take it. And okay, I know it involves a level of compositional and color understanding, but hopefully we are able to explain our thinking at each moment. It's nothing more than that, you know, what we are saying here. So yeah, that marks the end of a milestone. In the next stage, we add the architecture. We can have a short break from Photoshop and show you some elements generated in Midjourney. That was a pretty fun process again. There's a ton of different assets here, a ton of different ones, and our main idea was a water resort, a modern one. So we thought of a small islands connected all together. Those are kind of different styles, but the common feature is that everything is based on circles. And all of that was like a super duper quick round of Midjourney. So later on, as we always do, we cut them out and generate 3D models based on those inspirations. And right now we are rushing through this stage, but we already went into it very, very deeply in interior series, in Penthouse, in the Mediterranean. So be sure to look it up if you haven't already. But anyway, we use Tripo3D and Meshi AI to generate those. Before we generated 3D models based on people and furniture, but there's nothing stopping us for generating buildings as well. You can see all of them here. They look kind of abstract, but the results aren't that bad. Of course, they lack some major detail, but as you'll see in a moment, for our purposes, it's more than enough. So I want to keep the creative process flowing. And the last thing would be to lose the momentum and need to open 3ds Max, spend like a whole day, poly-moly, it's just terrible. Ultimately, with the help of enhancing and so on, we can achieve quite nice results. Next up, apart from making 3D models out of Midjourney, we also created 3D models based on prompts. So like text to 3D. We just typed like Mediterranean, catamarans, boats, and some futuristic ones. Simple as that. And we got a lot of crazy assets, you know? And those things will take a small space in the image. So like a few pixels, they don't require a lot of details, but in a matter of minutes, we get something super unique. Of course, models like yachts are available, but for whatever reason, they always cost $200 on TurboSquid. So we can generate something on our own, something that we have never dreamed of in 3D. So yeah, that's basically that. Moving on, the next step, 3D rendering. And honestly, there's literally nothing to cover here. We put those assets together, place the sun in the same position as in our backplate, and render it out. We have renders on a simple plane, we have shadows, we have render masks, we have also some sort of reflections. There's like a simple material with gloss set around 0.9, 0.85, so it's not perfect mirror, but slightly blurred. Like water from a distance, no additional details. Okay, back to Photoshop again. We have our basic renders. We just put them into the scene, we mask them out. We raise the brightness levels, blend it in a little bit, and let Magnifique fix some issues around the water. And of course, if we zoom in, it's not 100% perfect, but it's not completely absurd either, you know? These could be like small islands with some architecture, some residential buildings. We have some pools, greenery, and yeah, I think everything looks fairly believable. The detail at this level of the image is good enough. We change things like geometry of the bridges, removing some elements. We also run it through Magnifique and we are getting closer to the end. Okay, I think this is a good moment to take a quick pause here. This is actually the moment when Bart and I discussed this image. We wanted to talk about how to improve it. And honestly, there were just two things that we wanted to tweak or like change. We wanted those buildings to blend with the forest a little bit more. That was the first thing. And the other one was be even bolder with the foreground, you know? We could have some additional palms from even closer. And yeah, that was it. So that's the game plan. Heading back to it, we replace our architecture with a different one. We just generated different buildings in Midjourney. We put them into a 3D scene and then replace them and render them out. Same process as we did before. I think design-wise, it works much better. So that's a huge win. Moving on. We move the islands to the side. We draw the fragments of it and copy them with the clone tool. We run Magnifique again, improve the terrain a bit, and that's that. And last but not least, we come back to this foreground one last time. We want to close it from the left side as we just talked about. And again, we make a simple sketch, use Firefly to turn that sketch into something that looks incredibly realistic. And after that, we enhance that to really bring the realism back to 100%. And since we completely cut off the water, we want to reintroduce it somehow. That line is kind of nice dance of colors of blues and greens and yellows, so we don't want to miss it here. We sketch it again, add more substance using Firefly, another enhancement to get that fidelity back. And yeah, we are almost there. Lots of back and forth, but generally we are bringing this image home. And I absolutely love how this process looked like and what we ended up with. And as a cherry on top of the cake, monkey. Yeah, we need monkey. And we need to sketch it out in a very simple way. We use Firefly to transform it into something that actually resembles a monkey. And bam, you know, one last enhancing pass. And there you have it. The aerial is done. And okay, we hope that you enjoyed this little breakdown and could see what level of care goes into making beautiful image. Now we can take it and proceed with the main reason for this chapter. In the next lesson, we do something pretty damn cool. Thanks and see you there.